Two bodies stuck together, two brains trapped in one frame. Some could only live if the other died. Some shared a single heart. Some carried a twin that never fully developed, but still clung to their body. Surgeons often stood speechless because the conditions were so extreme. These are 20 conjoined twins whose stories are far more devastating than most people have ever heard. Chang and Ang Bunker. Chang and Ang Bunker did not come into the world as a miracle. They came into it as a crisis no one was prepared for. On May 11, 1811, in a small fishing village beside the Mekong River in Siam, their mother delivered two boys joined tightly at the chest. There was no doctor, no midwife with answers, just panic. Their sternums were fused by a hard mass of cartilage, and under that their livers were stuck together. In that time, no one on earth knew how to separate twins like this. If anyone tried, both children would die. Their parents had no money and no medical options. The boys grew up permanently attached, waking together, walking together, and suffering every illness as one. They were stared at wherever they went. Some people were afraid of them. Others treated them like they were cursed. As children, they learned quickly that the world did not know how to treat them, only how to judge them. By their teenage years, rumors about the joined brothers spread far beyond their village. In 1829, a British merchant took them to America to be displayed. At first, their lives were controlled by others. Crowds paid to see them like they were objects instead of human beings. People poked them, questioned them, and inspected their bodies as if they had no dignity. Eventually, Chang and Ang took charge of their own lives. They stopped letting others speak for them. They managed their own shows, saved their money, and built real lives in a country that had first treated them like a spectacle. They married, raised a combined 21 children, and tried to create a normal world inside a body that would never let them live separately. Their deaths were as harsh as their birth. On January 17, 1874, Chang died suddenly in his sleep. Ang woke up still attached to his brother's dead body. He begged people to cut them apart, not to survive, but to stop lying beside each other even in death. 2 hours later, Ang's heart failed. He died still connected to Chang's body. Their lives were long, painful, and extraordinary. Their condition became known as Siamese twins, a reminder of where they were born and how the world first saw them, not as children, but as a medical problem no one knew how to face. Lori and George Chappelle. Lori and George Chappelle were born into a life that no doctor, parent, or specialist could prepare for. On September 18, 1961, they entered the world joined at the skull. They did not share a brain, but they shared blood vessels, bone, and a narrow area of tissue that made separation nearly impossible. The most shocking part of their condition was the angle of their attachment. They were fused back to back, locked at 180 degrees, forced to face opposite directions for their entire lives. They never saw the world from the same viewpoint, even though they could never physically leave each other. Doctors told their family the truth early. The twins might survive 30 years at best. They expected infections, seizures, and organ failure. Instead, Lori and George lived 62 years. Their survival alone stunned the medical field. But what they became is what truly challenged everything experts thought they knew. As they grew older, the differences between them became impossible to ignore. George was born with spina bifida, which left him unable to walk. He was smaller, weaker, and medically fragile. Lori became his mobility. She pushed him everywhere on a wheeled stool. Every trip to the bathroom, every meal, every appointment, each action required cooperation. Nothing was simple, nothing was private. But what shook people even more was the fact that Lori and George lived as two different genders. Lori identified as a woman, George identified as a man. They dressed differently, their interests were different. At one point, surgeons offered separation. The risk of death or severe brain damage was extremely high. Lori and George refused. They were certain about one thing: they did not want to be cut apart. They did not want anyone deciding who got to live or who would die on the operating table. On April 7, 2024,
At the hospital of the University of Pennsylvania, both twins died together. Their story was not about being stuck together. It was about holding on to identity and choice in a situation that offered almost none. Ronnie and Donnie Gallion. They spent every second of 68 years staring into each other's eyes, and they wouldn't have chosen differently. October 28, 1951, in Dayton, Ohio. Donnie emerged first, then Ronnie, fused at the abdomen, facing one another in an embrace that would never end. They shared a digestive tract and bladder, but possessed separate hearts, lungs, and minds. Separation was impossible, yet the twins defied it all, touring across America, Canada, and Latin America, outliving every prediction made about them. In 2009, a blood clot in Ronnie's lungs nearly claimed them both, and recovery demanded round-the-clock care, sustained only through donations and community support. 2014 brought triumph. They shattered Chang and Ing Bunker's record as the longest-lived conjoined twins in history. But the victory proved fleeting. On July 4, 2020, at 68, congestive heart failure took them in hospice. 6 years past anyone's forecast, the Gallion twins lived an entire lifetime face-to-face, and they chose no other way. Krista and Tatiana Hogan. Krista and Tatiana Hogan were born on October 25, 2006, in Vancouver. They were delivered with their heads joined and were given only a 20% chance of survival. Doctors prepared their family for the worst, but the twins lived, grew, and continued to develop far beyond every prediction. What makes Krista and Tatiana different from almost any other set of craniopagus twins is a rare physical structure connecting their brains. A piece of tissue known as a thalamic bridge links the thalamus of one twin to the thalamus of the other. The thalamus is the part of the brain that handles sensory information and motor signals. Because these areas are connected, information travels between the two girls in a way doctors had never seen before. The effects are astonishing. Tatiana can see through both of Krista's eyes. Krista can see through one of Tatiana's. When Krista tastes a food she does not like, Tatiana reacts even if she has not eaten anything. If you tickle one twin, the other laughs. Their bodies respond to the world as if they share parts of a single nervous system. Motor control is also divided in unusual ways. Tatiana controls 3 arms and 1 leg. Krista controls 3 legs and 1 arm. They cannot separate these movements. Every step, every reach, and every small action must be coordinated together. Because of their shared brain structure, separation surgery has never even dare attempt the impossible. Hours blur on the operating table, yet against every odds, both girls emerge alive. Through months of grueling rehabilitation, they relearn everything. Safa and Marwa,
they went into the delivery room expecting 1 baby, but they emerged with 2 joined at the top of the head. On January 2017 in Sharada, Pakistan, the delivery room erupted in chaos when a family expecting 1 child discovered their twins were fused at the crown, gazing in opposite directions. Safa and Marwa had already defied death simply by drawing breath. Most conjoined twins never survived their first day. But survival posed a crueler question. Could they ever be freed from each other? Pakistani doctors offered only silence. Then, autumn 2018, 19 months old, the twins landed at Great Ormond Street Hospital in London, one of perhaps 5 places on Earth where surgeons even dare to attempt the impossible. Hours blur on the operating table, yet against every odds, both girls emerge alive. Through months of grueling rehabilitation, they relearn everything. And in July 2019, Safa and Marwa walked out with their mother, grandfather, and uncle, heading home as 2. As one of the few conjoined twins who have survived separation, Safa and Marwa's journey isn't just about medical innovation, but about hope and what's possible.
Patrick and Benjamin Binder. Patrick and Benjamin Binder entered the world on February 2, 1987 in Ulm, Germany. They were 7 months old when doctors discovered the full extent of their condition. The boys were joined at the back of the head. Their brains were separate, but their blood vessels were tangled together in a way that made separation almost impossible. German specialists told the parents the truth without hesitation. Surgery would almost certainly kill one or both boys. No hospital in the country would attempt it. Their parents were desperate and grieving. They searched for another answer and eventually received an invitation from Baltimore, Maryland. Dr. Ben Carson, the director of pediatric neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins Hospital, believed he could attempt the surgery despite the extremely small chance of success. The Binders accepted because they had nowhere else to turn. The operation began on September 4, 1987. 70 medical staff worked for 22 hours straight. It was one of the most complex surgeries ever attempted on conjoined twins. When it ended, the impossible had happened. Both boys survived the operation. Newspapers around the world celebrated it as a miracle of modern medicine. Cameras followed the parents. Headlines declared victory. But the real story was far darker. Patrick never regained consciousness. He remained in a vegetative state, unable to move, speak, or respond. He lived like that for years until his body finally gave out. Benjamin showed small signs of awareness, but never learned to speak, walk, or live independently. His condition slowly worsened. His abilities decreased, not improved. Over time, the media stopped reporting on the twins because the truth did not match the miracle the world wanted to believe. The family suffered the most painful outcome imaginable. They had asked for a chance at life for both boys. Instead, they endured decades of decline, financial strain, and emotional devastation. Masha and Dasha Krivosova. They were declared dead at birth, but they spent their first 6 years as lab rats. On January 3, 1950, in Moscow, Soviet Union, a seamstress named Yekaterina Krivosova labored for 2
days and 2 nights. No one knew she was carrying twins, as an ultrasound wouldn't exist in the USSR for another 8 years. But after giving birth, Yekaterina was told her babies died at birth. But unknown to her, she had twins joined at the waist at a 180-degree angle, with 2 heads, 4 arms, 1 leg each, and a vestigial 3rd limb at their back. They shared a blood system, but had separate nervous systems. To Soviet physiologist Pyotr Onikin, they were perfect research subjects, and for the next 6 years, the twins were subjected to experiments that can only be described as torture. They were injected, burned, subjected to extreme temperatures, electrocuted, and kept forcibly awake for days in experiments that were documented on film by the USSR Academy of Medical Sciences. But in 1956, 3 years after Stalin's death, the experiments ended. After a troubling life, Masha's heart stopped around midnight on April 13, 2003. Hours later, Dasha followed, both dying at the age of 53. Millie and Christine McCoy. Born into slavery on July 11, 1851 in Whiteville, North Carolina, Millie and Christine McCoy arrived in a world that would test them in unimaginable ways. Connected at the lower spine at approximately a 90-degree angle, they weighed a combined 17 pounds at birth. Sold at 10 months old, kidnapped multiple times, and exhibited as curiosities, the twins were passed between owners like property. Yet something remarkable emerged from this darkness. When Joseph Smith and his wife took custody of the girls, they did something extraordinary. They educated them. After emancipation in 1863, they chose to continue working with the Smiths, achieving financial success that allowed them to purchase their birthplace. Separation was never possible, as physicians determined they shared portions of their pelvis and spinal cord, but they never wanted it anyway. On October 8, 1912, Millie died of tuberculosis at age 61, and Christine died the following day after being heavily sedated by doctors. On their grave, the marker read, "A soul with 2 thoughts, 2 hearts that beat as one," a final nod to the life they lived. Ladan and Ladani. They were born turned away from each other, but stuck together, and for their short lives, they lived as one. Their brains separate, but their lives inseparably intertwined. In a small Iranian village, Ladan and Ladani entered the world on January 17, 1974, as craniopagus twins, joined at the head facing opposite directions, destined never to see each other's faces. In 1996, they traveled seeking separation, but German doctors refused, saying the risk was too high. But the twins were determined. 6 years later, they tried again, this time with neurosurgeon Keith Go. But despite warnings that success was unlikely, the girls insisted. Their quest made headlines. The world watched as they prepared for surgery, for independent lives, and for a future they'd never known. But during the 48 hours of surgery that would set them free, they died while still under anesthesia. They had lived together their entire lives. In death, they finally got their separation, buried in separate graves in their home village. Their courage in seeking independence cost them everything. Yet their story advanced medical knowledge and inspired countless others. Daisy and Violet Hilton. Daisy and Violet were born on February 5, 1908 in Brighton, England. They were joined at the hips and buttocks. They shared blood flow, but not major organs, which meant they could not be separated safely. Their unmarried mother, Kate Skinner, panicked when she saw their condition. Instead of keeping them, she handed them over to her employer, Mary Hilton, who immediately realized the twins could be used for profit. From that moment on, Daisy and Violet were treated less like children and more like property. By age 3, they were placed on stages across Britain. People paid to stare at them, touch them, and question them. At 5, they were taken across Germany and Australia. They had no control over their lives. They were displayed, pushed, and forced to perform while the adults around them collected the money. In 1931, when they were 23, the twins finally fought back. They sued the managers who controlled them. The case exposed years of exploitation, abuse, and financial theft. Daisy and Violet won their freedom and $100,000 in damages. But freedom did not erase the scars of the past. For a short time, they built careers in vaudeville and film. Their fame slowly faded as entertainment changed and the public moved on. They struggled to find steady work. Eventually, the twins took jobs at a grocery store working at the produce counter. On January 4, 1969, the twins, who were 60 at the time, failed to show up for their shift. A concerned coworker called the police. Inside their small home, officers found both sisters dead. The Hong Kong flu had taken their lives. Daisy died first. Violet, still attached to her sister's body, lived alone with her for 2 to 4 days before she also died.